Ooh-wee. I've lost a lot of weight. I have lost a lot of weight. Everything, I think.
Oh. How's the mic on? What mic is it using? Oh, I know what it is. Why can't I get... Boom! Better microphone. If you want... Wait, I was singing. Did you guys hear me singing? Oh, I ain't got anything negative to say, boys. Dig a little deeper in the well, boys. Dig a little deeper in the well. You want to get a cold drink of crypto, you better dig a little deeper in the well. Hello! It better be working now. Yeah! Hello and welcome everybody to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I go by Blind Run on the internet and Matthew in real life. I don't need these headphones right now. I'm just going to throw them over here. That way you can see my cauliflower ear. Today we're going to be talking about Hillary Clinton. Uh-oh, we just got demonetized. We're also going to be talking about the French president Emmanuel Macron, or Macron, like Patron. We'll also be talking about Bitcoin miner BitDeer. We're going to be talking about Sweden and some mining industry tax. We're going to be talking about Texas and its anti-mining crypto bill. We're going to be talking about Montana and its pro-crypto mining bill. We're going to be talking about Ethereum and its Shanghai upgrades aftermath. We, of course, did the live show before this about that. And we're going to be talking about Lithium's native token ALF being listed on Bitsmart. Other than that, we're going to be looking at a little bit of the Ice River and talking a little bit about that kaspa miner, as well as 3 new miner releases, and then, of course, crypto mining profitability right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is myself. I recently launched a crypto mining e-course at sonofatech.com, and it includes 9 steps to cover when you decide to start your crypto mining journey. This is specifically pertaining to 2023 crypto mining profits and taking advantage of the down market to achieve skyrocketing growth as we move into the next halving of Bitcoin. You'll learn buying mining equipment in a bear market, using outside investment to speculative mine, begin mining once profit is established, sell mine crypto to pay for electricity, hold and prep for the bull run, sell at the top of the bull market, sell mining equipment at the top of the bull market, and begin investing in land and power so that you can bring in outside investors to utilize excess resources. Thanks everybody for your support, and I hope you enjoy the course. Let me know what you think of it in the comment section below. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I also heard that Montana banned TikTok. Wow, that's going to be a huge loss of those 5 users that were on TikTok from Montana. Sorry, jokes aside, I had to take it. I had to take it. It was too easy. Let's talk about this. Hillary Clinton fears Bitcoin will undermine dollars as world reserve currency. Former Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton spoke about Bitcoin and crypto's ability to weaken governments. I mean, that was the point. Former Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton spoke about Bitcoin and crypto's ability to weaken governments during video panel discussion at the Bloomberg New Economy Forum in Singapore on Friday. Hillary warned, what looks like a very interesting and somewhat exotic effort to literally mine new coins in order to trade with them has the potential for undermining currencies. She went all the way. She finally figured it out, boys. She knows what's happening. Oh man. Targeting mining specifically here. Because why? Why? What's the difference between mining and staking? Can you buy a real world asset and in return get staked cryptocurrency? But honestly, do you understand? Do you understand what's going on here? Staked cryptocurrency, like Ethereum or anything else that's staking, requires that you enter into that market through another currency, through a fiat currency. Proof of work cryptocurrency does not require this. To participate within proof of work cryptocurrency, you can purchase any piece of computer equipment and begin to mine cryptocurrency and participate within the network. And there's nothing anybody can do about it on the banking level or the government level. In describing this rather vague threat to nations and multinational corporations, Hillary betrayed the fact that she doesn't know the difference between Bitcoin and the separate asset class of cryptocurrencies. Many politicians don't. The terms should not be used interchangeably. Bitcoin assures anyone with internet access a decentralized, permissionless right to property that cannot be confiscated or censored by any government. No one on the Bitcoin network is forced to choose between updating their software or risk losing their wealth. It is backwards compatible. Bitcoin is a geographically agnostic personal sovereign wealth fund. The other thousands of cryptocurrencies are centralized and largely unregulated assets whose protocol can be changed at any time. Thus, in crypto, the threat of property confiscation persists. Bitcoin and crypto are completely different asset classes. I mean, I would say proof of work, and it depends on the proof of work crypto, right? But I would say proof of work cryptos and everything else are completely different asset classes, right? But as defined, what we've started to find as far as definitions from the SEC so far, very vaguely, is that, Bitcoin, proof of work, is a commodity, and proof of stake is, of course, going to be a security. That is loose definitions right now and probably will be changed. It's quite funny, though, because there are more stringent rules surrounding securities and less stringent rules surrounding commodities as of right now. But as we've seen here recently, there has been a request to increase the funding towards regulation of commodities, probably specifically for this in particular. And there is definitely an attack vector on cryptocurrency going on through environmental accusations. Therefore, when Hillary casually throws crypto in with her laundry list of threats to her political and economic worldview, she is categorically wrong. Actually, I do not think she is. I think she's right. And here's the thing that they're missing. Yes, it's Bitcoin Magazine. They are going to be biased. But if Bitcoin goes away, or if they completely try to block Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies spin up and people decide to participate within that network that are even just straight clones of Bitcoin, it just becomes a problem of not being able to actually regulate. Once again, I equate it to the war on drugs. You're going to spend billions to trillions of dollars trying to regulate an industry that is unregulatable, right? You shut down Bitcoin, you have another Bitcoin 2 pop up. You shut down Bitcoin 2, you have a Ravencoin pop up. You shut down Ravencoin, you have a Kaspa pop up. You shut down Kaspa, you have a Radiant pop up. You shut down Radiant, you have a Nexa pop up. And they keep popping up and they never stop popping up. You can't get rid of them all. And if people decide to stop participating within traditional finance and decide to start participating within cryptocurrency, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it from a regulation level. The only thing you can really do is say, oh, you're not allowed to exchange that for X product in our country. But if you have an individual rancher or, shop owner that's like, no, I'll accept it, then you bypass that altogether. I send money to you, you send money to me. Why is this such a big deal? Well, it's a big deal because when we talk about the levels that they keep bringing down on the people to tax, right? It's like you have to report every, over $600 for the entire year on PayPal or Cash App or whatever now has to be reported. So, hey, it's not uncommon to split lunches with someone over a course of a year and have that bill go up to $600. So now not only am I paying the tax or sales tax for the state sales tax, but I'm also paying the federal tax on now what is considered income, even though it was just the splitting of lunch and I didn't even, it gets stupid. So what do people do? Well, hey, can I pay for half of my lunch in Bitcoin? Yeah, sure. Ding, ding, done. Right? This is the problem. They're trying to get more money and drain the people of their money. And at some point, people start opting out. If it's easier for me to send Bitcoin from me to you to pay for half of my lunch and I don't have to worry about it ticking away at my report level on PayPal, then I'm probably going to be more inclined to do that. And it doesn't just have to be Bitcoin. I'm sorry, Bitcoin Magazine, but it doesn't. I'm sure there's probably 20 different people in chat right now that if I split lunch with them, I could say, can I send you the equivalent in kaspa? And they would tell me yes. Right? This is the thing. Pay attention. She's right more than Bitcoin Magazine here. Cryptocurrencies cannot undermine fiat currency or nation states outright because what they offer is fundamentally the same as fiat, which is an asset that can and is debased by governance. Once again, I disagree. You're able to spin these things up. Like, take a very simple one like Monero, right? Like, that's not going to have the same problem. Take Dogecoin, not going to have the same problem as a lot of what they're saying here. It's kind of funny. It's almost as if Bitcoin Magazine wanted to say that Hillary Clinton is wrong so bad that they took this weird angle. Therefore, however, Bitcoin and Bitcoin only absolutely can and is disrupting the dollar as a global reserve currency. Now, here's where things get interesting because this is what we have to talk about. We go back to the soft war, right? And we go back to Jason Lowery, right? Head of the space program, whatever it is, right? And if you read through that, you start to understand that what makes Bitcoin really special in this instance, which should have been the attack vector they took here if they want to set Bitcoin apart, is that governments in general could, in theory, afford to attack different blockchains because the amount of power to attack those chains is cheap enough to actually execute, right? As opposed to that, with Bitcoin, because of the amount of power, just power cost it would take, not to mention the amount of hash power and computer equipment you would have to purchase, it's astronomical. It would cost too much for even any first world country or even a group of first world countries to attack the Bitcoin network. And that is where Bitcoin sets itself apart and sets itself up into a position that can be disruptive to any reserve currency. And let's not get things confused here, because as she is talking about Bitcoin being a threat to a reserve currency, meanwhile, BRICS is setting up over there in the shadows, and the yuan is being used primarily and has surpassed the US dollar in BRICS nations, and it is quickly becoming a threat to the reserve currency. So if you want to call, if you want to call Bitcoin that, then we got to point out the rest and say, hey, look, the rest of the world's also doing it too. So what's the best plan? Is the best plan to shut down the one that supports all countries in the entire world and every individual? Or is it better to shut down the one that is allianced with an enemy, right? Or a potential enemy, right? One creates borders, one breaks borders. That's the difference, okay? She goes on to say, quote, nation states have got to pay greater attention to the rise of asymmetric power centers, end quote, Hillary stated. Ironically, the threats Bitcoin poses to nation states are predicated on its decentralization. Once again, we want to break borders down, not create more borders, right? Hillary tangentially went on to mention the disinformation in the political and economic sphere is only going to get worse. Of course, because if you're trying to control narratives, it's extremely difficult to control narratives in a digital transformation. That's the thing that we've been talking about for a while. And once again, I'm going to point you guys to reading and paying attention to the sovereign individual, because what we are seeing is a digital transformation now. And I think it becomes clearer and clearer every day, especially as we start to see the acknowledgement of it by people that are in power that frankly don't want to lose that power, right? And what we are seeing is an acknowledgement of that right here. It is hard to imagine what more socioeconomic relevant disinformation there is outside of the attempts at the Fed to cover up inflation through manipulating and redefining the moving goalpost that is consumer price index. Here's the problem. You're like, it's the pot calling the kettle black, not so much, right? But like when you just have these tit for tats, it's not going to really be effective. It's like, well, she shouldn't speak on it because, well, they're doing this at the same time. It's like everybody's pointing fingers at each other for misinformation, when the fact is that what's really going to break that down is the free flow of information without the interference of other entities, right? Whether that be media or whether that be the government or whatever it might be, what the internet has done is broken down the ability for people to control the narrative. And when that happens, what you will get is a certain amount of that will be misinformation on the fringes, and a certain amount of that will be probably correct from both sides at the center, right? And at the end of the day, what that does allow for people to do is actually find the truth through all of that. It's a lot better than just having one side control the narrative and push it down everybody's throat and that be accepted for truth when it probably isn't, because it has been that narrative that's been shaped by someone that wants to control you. It is unlikely Hillary was referring to the disinformation or outright misunderstanding spread by the government and environmental groups about Bitcoin, of course, but what you're doing is you're doing a tit for tat argument, Bitcoin Magazine. The former presidential candidate turned public speaker also warned that a rise of artificial intelligence was going to threaten nation states without providing any context or definition for artificial intelligence. This one's been an interesting one. So I guess you would agree with Elon Musk here, which is kind of funny and ironic. But at the same time, like, how much of this is reality and how much of it is just fear mongering, right? Obviously, artificial intelligence is going to shift the way we live. Digital currencies, regardless of the way they're implemented, whether it's implemented from the form of a CBDC, known as a central bank digital currency for those that don't know, or something like a decentralized currency like Bitcoin. Whether or not, either way it goes, at the end of the day, it folds into the same thing. There's going to be a transformation into one of these worlds, right? And with that, obviously artificial intelligence is coming along with it. So that is going to fundamentally shift the way that things function within reality, within our reality, right? The fact of the matter is everything that you do will be affected by artificial intelligence. Now, people that work in IT right now are very aware of this because we're utilizing and leveraging artificial intelligence to do almost everything. Shoot, if you're a YouTuber and you're not utilizing artificial intelligence to take care of captioning and helping auto clipping and stuff, you're wasting a ton of time. You're wasting a ton of time. There's a ton of work you don't need to do. And so if you're not utilizing that, well, I'm sorry, goodbye. You can stay in the industrial age because we're moving into the digital age. All right. That's where we're going. It is what it is. I don't think there's any stopping it at this point. So learn to use it so that you understand what's happening, right? And in typical diplomat fashion, without proposing any actionable solution to any of these vague perceived threats. Once again, this could be, of course, they're referencing that as fear-mongering. Of course, though, this goes back to, you guys should read outliers. Malcolm Gladwell, is that right? Anyways, Joe Rogan talks about it a lot. It's a good book, but one of the things that it talks about is like older generations are usually too old to see the value in something new, right? And then there's this like sweet spot where you're young enough to waste time on something that may seem like a toy, like a computer, that will greatly benefit you financially in the future, right? And this is that line. We're in that era now, right? With this transformation that we're having with digital currencies and with AI and everything else. There will be this age gap of people that are able to focus on it and utilize it and learn to utilize it that will gain massive benefits from it. It is really, honestly, probably going to be the greatest wealth generator of our lives. Second to like the dot-com bubble, right? With his oligarch, oh man, who is this talking about? Where'd we go? Oh, Hillary's comments came while criticizing Russian President Vladimir Putin, accusing him of deploying a very large stable of hackers and those who deal in disinformation and cyber warfare. With his oligarchy, there we go. He has utilized many non-state actors to personnel as well as nationalistic goals. And I think that's going to become a greater and greater threat, end quote, she said at the forum in Singapore. Hillary has been blaming Russian interference along with decisions by the Federal Bureau of Investigation for her loss in the U.S. presidential election to Donald Trump for years. What these warnings have to do with her crypto talking points is unclear. Well, I can tell you exactly what it has to do with it. This is what it has to do with it, because it all comes down to money and power. And Russia has reversed almost all of their policies on Bitcoin mining, cryptocurrency ownership, etc. Why? Because it has enabled the people of Russia to actually function financially while being under all of these sanctions, right? This is why they have the ongoing tax holiday for cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. So this is a power play. It's strategic. This isn't, it's going to be masked and it's going to be clouded and they won't come out and say it exactly, but this is because of that. Okay. It's very clear that that is what it is. If you are paying attention to the story as a whole and taking a step back, you can say, oh, I see. Yeah, we can make those points, right? Oh, well, now all the oligarchs in Russia, they're utilizing Bitcoin. Bad, bad, bad. That means Bitcoin's bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to confiscate all the Bitcoin and shut down all of the miners that have ever transacted with any wallet that's ever touched a Russian oligarch. This is why mining is going to be extremely important. I want to go back to this. Because this is going to be the key point that I'm going to sum this up with, right? Right here. What did she warn? What looks like a very interesting and somewhat exotic effort to literally mine new coins in order to trade with them has the potential for undermining currencies. It does not say stake because you have control over staking because of the inlet and the inflows for staking. Now, sure, you could mine some Bitcoin, put it into Ethereum and stake it. What does that require? That still requires miners. What is the number one threat being set up here? Mining. Why is that? Virgin Bitcoin. I've been talking about it for a while. Pay attention. Virgin Bitcoin. That is the term. And it's because mining allows this with hardware that is purchasable by the general consumer. Okay? That does mean that GPU, CPU mining, things that are more commonly accessible, I think become more important for what I would call individual sovereignty, right? At the end of the day. And that is why I do push back on Bitcoin Magazine. The only place where I agree with them, which they actually didn't even bring up this point, the number one argument for Bitcoin against all other cryptocurrencies is that it is too cost prohibitive for any country to coordinate an attack on Bitcoin, the Bitcoin network right now. That's not true for the case in most other currencies, right? Maybe Dogecoin, Litecoin is big enough. I haven't really looked at all these numbers, but that's the important point that's going on here. And if we're going to talk about the threat of the US dollar, of the threat of de-dollarization, if we're going to talk about that, obviously in the title here, then we have to talk about the other threats that are not coming from cryptocurrency. French President Emmanuel Macron states Europe must reduce its dependence on the US dollar to avoid becoming vassals. So French President Emmanuel Macron, I don't know how to pronounce it. I should have Googled it. I apologize. I don't stay up with France too much. I will say that. Recently revealed his stance on the current geopolitical and macroeconomic issues Europe is facing, standing in the middle of Russia-Ukraine war and a possible Taiwan conflict. At his return from a three-day visit to China, where he met with Chinese President Xi Jinping, Macron stated that Europe commonly gets caught in third-party affairs that affect its possibilities of developing strategic autonomy. Macron also noted that this behavior of the European Union bloc is reducing it to be considered mere backers of the US. On this, he told Politico, quote, "The paradox would be that, overcome with panic, we believe we are just America's followers." And by and large, that's probably true, right? You are America's followers because America has the dollar, and the dollar is the reserve currency internationally. So obviously, you're going to follow along with that because it's economically viable, right? The real thing that's being said here, the mask, right? We got to start reading between the lines here. What's being masked here is that there is this potential of the US dollar not being economically beneficial to, as economically beneficial to other countries. So you start to see these political shifts where you start to see fence sitters that are like, they're starting the fence sitting now because they don't know who's going to win at the end of the day. As part of its strategic autonomy determination, Macron acknowledged Europe has had no possibility of influencing the future of a possible conflict in Taiwan, and that any attempt to do so would only increase the tensions between the parties. Analysts believe that the doctrine of strategic autonomy has to do more with the US than with countries like China and Russia. About his director of European Studies at the China Institute of International Studies explained, quote, "It means Europe does not want to be eclipsed in the great power rivalry, and it needs to have its own say on security, defense, and foreign policy issues that have usually been controlled by the US." This could spell extreme trouble for Taiwan, though, and that will be important from the perspective of mining and the fact that the reason why Taiwan is really an issue here is because they are one of the largest producers of semiconductors. And for mining, you utilize, obviously, semiconductor manufacturing, right, to mine cryptocurrencies. At the end of the day, that's the supply chain, right? That's part of the supply chain that allows people to participate within cryptocurrency. And the fight over Taiwan, of course, will be for this control over the production of semiconductors. And what we're seeing is like a backing up, because if, let's just say, China does take over Taiwan and then controls the semiconductor production, you wouldn't want to be cut off from that necessarily, right? You kind of want to be a fence sitter in that position. But it does spell a little bit of trouble because it means the US may have no backing if that were to take place, which means at the end of the day, Taiwan has no backing for their own sovereignty. Macron also stated that Europe has become dependent on the US on the energy and military front, of course, proposing to boost the development of European alternatives. Macron also criticized the dependence that the bloc has on the US dollar, explaining it might hurt them in the future. See, this is a preparation. It might hurt us in the future. This is a preparation so that they have some way to back out of this if the dollar is not strong, right? Quote, "If the tensions between the two superpowers heat up, we won't have the time nor the resources to finance our strategic autonomy, and we will become vassals." While European countries have not been targeted by US dollar-centric sanctions, European companies often complain that they can't conduct business with sanctioned countries and entities due to the risk of being targeted by secondary sanctions. China, Russia, and other countries of the BRICS bloc are currently working on developing alternatives to the use of the US dollar for conducting these activities. President Xi had made calls to the European bloc before, asking it to, quote, stand against the hegemony, right, in the US, unilateralism, and attempts to decouple economies or sever supply chains, end quote, in a call against adopting or supporting these sanctions. This does spell trouble for the US dollar in general, because what we're seeing are essentially other governments kind of backing up and wanting to fence sit on this issue, so that if there does end up being a threat to the US dollar as being the reserve currency, they can begin to participate in other reserve currencies, right? And that should at least put up a few red flags. Now, I could go on to preach, I would like to, and say, the US should start adopting Bitcoin, because breaking down the walls and being decentralized means that the US would have a strong position regardless of if the US dollar is a reserve currency or not, right? I think this is why you start to see really interesting moves from a lot of people as far as, or countries, like we talked about Russia earlier, adopting Bitcoin and giving those kind of tax holidays. Let's talk about Bitcoin mining news right after a sip from my soda. Bitcoin miner BitDeer stock slumped nearly 30% at trading debut. The Singapore firm is one of the largest Bitcoin miners in the world, with 16.2 exahash a second of hash rate. Bitcoin miner BitDeer listed Friday on the Nasdaq after several delays to lukewarm reception. Shares of the miner under the ticker BTDR lost almost 30% of their value, trading around $6.81 at the time of publication. What are we seeing? A separation of cryptocurrency and the traditional stock market. We've been seeing that already, and it doesn't look like they're going to be playing nice together. We've seen targeted attacks on banks that support cryptocurrencies, and the ability for anybody participating in cryptocurrency as a business to participate within traditional finance has been all but wiped out, and continues to be wiped out on a daily basis. The oddities, of course, are like the allowance possibly of FTX to resurface. But as we know, FTX, prior to, of course, its collapse, had been working strongly with the SEC on advising surrounding regulation. So there could be a whole bunch of tinfoil hats going on there, especially because, meanwhile, on the other side, the SEC is being like, we need to look into Coinbase and Crypto.com. Meanwhile, they're like, yeah, just let FTX, the biggest scandal in cryptocurrency history, outside of maybe Mt. Gox, let them restart up. That's fine. Definitely questionable. The stock was halted shortly after market open several times for volatility. Other crypto mining stocks saw single-digit upticks in their share value at the same time frame. BitDeer's merger with a special purpose acquisition vehicle, SPAC, called Blue Safari Group Acquisition Group was approved on Tuesday. The Singapore-based firm is one of the largest miners in the world, showing a March prospectus filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. It has 6 mining sites across Washington State, Texas, Tennessee, and Norway, with a total energy capacity of 775 megawatts as of the end of 2022, about 200 megawatts less than what it had estimated in February of 2022. Its hash rate, or computing power, at the end of January stood at a total of 16.2 exahash a second, second only to the bankrupt Core Scientific and higher than Riot Platforms and Marathon Digital Holdings. About 1/4 of that is used for self-mining, meaning it keeps the Bitcoin rewards, whereas the rest is given out for cloud mining, meaning customers rent its machines and reap the rewards. BitDeer was born out of the world's largest rig manufacturer, Bitmain. After a spat between the two co-founders, one of them left and took BitDeer. Another cloud mining firm, also affiliated with Bitmain, BitFuFu, is also in the process of going public via SPAC, but has delayed the listing. BitDeer's financial performance, as with other Bitcoin miners, deteriorated in 2022, in part due to worsening market conditions. The firm reported revenue of $330 million and a loss of $62.4 million for 2022, compared with $394.7 million in revenue and a profit of $82.6 million the year before, according to the prospectus filing. The miner is going public at a better time than last year, as market conditions have improved, with Bitcoin passing the $30,000 mark and mining equities in many cases outperforming the digital asset in percentage growth. In the future, the market will begin to shift from not only focus on operators with the biggest scale, but also operators with the best unit economics, said investment bank Stifel Nicholas, analyst at Stifel Nicholas's analyst Bill Papa, I can't do it. Bill Papa. There you go. Bill Papa. Now, what will be interesting, obviously, is going to be like how this plays out as we move on, because as we've seen, Bitcoin has now started to really outperform all expectations and start to uncorrelate itself with traditional markets like the stock market. And if that continues up until the halving, things could get extremely interesting, because once we have the halving, of course, the price will go up due to the cost to mint a Bitcoin. And we have the cost to mint a Bitcoin going up just from the hefty taxes going into it through regulation, which we're about to talk about. And of course, just the cost of electricity in general. But this is the question too. What happens when you just start taxing the mining industry? The 6,000% increase in taxes per kilowatt hour of energy may ultimately destroy the industry in the country. Sweden, the last remaining stronghold of Bitcoin miners in Europe, is abolishing tax incentives for data centers in July, potentially putting the last nail in the coffin for the industry in the region. Energy prices in Europe have spiked in the past year, largely in part due to the war in Ukraine, driving out Bitcoin miners. The northernmost regions of Norway and Sweden were some of the last areas where the industry was still profitable and operating, although the crowd had thinned out, as they offer an ideal environment for data centers, cool and home to cheap hydroelectricity. But not even these remote parts of Europe remained unaffected from the energy crisis, which caused prices to increase and some miners to turn off their operations, at least partly in 2022. Energy prices started to normalize in 2023, but the upcoming tax will likely stop any new investment in Sweden, which is currently home to about 150 megawatts of mining. The tax will increase from SEK 0.006 to SEK 0.36 per kilowatt hour starting July of this year, according to the financial budget published in November of 2022. Based on the average electricity prices last year, the tax hike could bring the all-in energy cost to 9.3 cents US per kilowatt hour, which actually is still probably sustainable. I think in any first world country, this is probably going to end up being like a pretty common average price for commercial power. The question will be like, how many miners move to more friendly areas for this, right? And what are those friendly areas, and what are we looking at? This was from a senior analyst at mining services firm Luxor Technologies. A MicroBT WhatsMiner M30S, a moderately efficient and commonly used machine, would be at break-even point given the current market conditions, he said. Hive Blockchain, a Canada-based miner with 25% of its energy capacity in Sweden as of the end of 2022, declined to comment on this story. CoinDesk couldn't find any instance where Hive disclosed the tax explicitly in any of its filings. Here's the thing, though, that will be funny. If you're just taxing people in fiat currency, which eventually becomes useless, then it won't matter. A thought I had run through my head. The firm has discussed its disagreement with Swedish tax authorities over $32.4 million in VAT that it thinks it should recover. Norway, which hosts 250 to 300 megawatts of mining, also increased its taxes from 0.0086 cents to 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour in January, said Mellerud. Not all hope is lost for Norway, as its energy is overall cheaper and the tax hike is more modest, Mellerud said. The industry will continue developing there, said Dennis Rosinovich, co-founder of mining consulting firm Cryptocurrency Mining Group. Sweden's tax hike makes mining in the region prohibitively expensive in Sweden and could ultimately destroy the industry, said Mellerud, so Bitcoin miners are looking for solutions. Many miners are looking to diversify elsewhere, as the new tax will drastically reduce their profitability, said Enerhash CEO Daniel Jog, who operates a site in Sweden. The tax also requires companies to pay in advance for a few months, which creates some serious cash constraints at a difficult time in the industry, he said. Some miners could try to get through the tax hike by switching to self-mining instead of hosting others' machines, said Rosanovich. Others are looking at ways to get around the tax by reusing the heat produced in the data centers, such that they are taxed as heat producers, Mellerud said. Those packing up are also facing an uphill battle, said Rusanovich. The market of potential buyers has completely dried up, and there are only less than a handful of real buyers left. It is unclear whether Sweden's new taxes were intended towards miners or the entire data center industry. The tax hike was proposed by the Swedish Ministry of Finance, which was also pushing for a ban on Bitcoin mining in the European Union last year, Mellerud pointed out. I mean, you stated that it's unclear and then made it clear, right? Quote, this could be viewed as an attack on Bitcoin mining, he said. In 2017, Sweden enacted a 98% tax cut for data centers looking to attract businesses. 4 years later, the industry hasn't created the jobs the country was hoping for, and the macroeconomic environment has changed, said the budget report. The energy crisis has increased electricity rates for households, and the tax cuts currently in place might actually be taking away energy from other more job-creating industries in the manufacturing sector, said the budget. Miners are disappointed by how the tax hike rolled out, with what seemed like little notice or communication. Firms like Hive tout Sweden as a stable jurisdiction where they don't worry about abrupt unilateral changes in the regulatory regime. Microsoft, which also operates data centers in the region, has protested the measure's abruptness, particularly given that the government had commissioned a report on the energy impact of data centers that wasn't finished at the time of the tax hike decision, according to the budget. There has been no official communication to the Bitcoin miners active in the region, only a page on the tax authority's website that was updated to show the change, said Rosanovich. That, plus the fact that the tax will be implemented in the middle of the calendar year, making it hard to plan ahead, has rubbed miners the wrong way. Companies can request a refund for any taxes levied before the start of July, a spokesperson of the Swedish tax agency said. I mean, what we are seeing, obviously, is taxes being aimed towards cryptocurrency in general. It's interesting that Microsoft is, basically operating a data center there and is going to push back on this. What will be most interesting is if we see them rewrite that in favor of data centers, similar to what Washington State did, and specifically target cryptocurrency mining for the tax hike. I would presume that's probably something along the lines of what we see as we watch this story develop. And of course, we'll cover it on the Bitcoin Mining Show every Friday evening. That's a lot, boys. Things are happening extremely quickly right now. This is the fastest shift in, I think, in any industry. This is the fastest shifting industry I've ever seen in my lifetime. It's pretty crazy. Texas has taken a decisive step toward imposing much stricter regulations on Bitcoin miners. Will other states follow? No, but we'll talk about that in a second because we have a follow-up to this article. Bitcoin requires a ton of energy to maintain its network, and Texas lawmakers have taken notice. Today, the Texas State Senate came one step closer to reaching an agreement about Senate Bill 1751, which we talked about on this channel last week or the week before. I can't remember, which will regulate how Bitcoin miners can interact with the power grid and how their earnings will be taxed. Introduced in the Texas state on March 7th, the bill sponsors are a trio of GOP state senators, Louis Colkhurst, Donna Campbell, and Robert Nichols. While New York and other states have recently emerged as some of the fiercest anti-crypto jurisdictions in the country, the implications of Texas legislation go far indeed. It may fundamentally undermine how Bitcoin miners in the state operate. The state has a power grid that is wholly separate from the rest of the country. In the last few years, it has made headlines for surge pricing and outdated or underprepared hardware. I've actually been learning a lot about this. I want to share it, but I'm not sure exactly what I'm allowed to share because I do work in the industry now. And it's been extremely eye-opening. And there's a lot going on that is really interesting that surrounds this. This isn't quite fair, and I can tell you why. But there was a reason for the surge outside of that. It's actually quite interesting. But let's move on. Now, add energy-intensive mining practices, and the problem gains the potential to become more and more accurate. At present, companies like Riot Platforms, a 100-acre facility based in Rockdale, use so much energy that when electricity is in short supply, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas pays them to limit their energy use. This has been a partnership in Texas that's actually been going on since before the Great Storm that shut down Texas for about a week. And it has also been one of the number one reasons Texas has been able to effectively improve the power grid, because what happens here is that the Bitcoin miners are utilizing unused power, and when it needs to be supplied back to the grid, they can turn off and provide it back to the grid, which is why they get paid in turn. Now, in my humble opinion, this is actually good for the grid. And so when you see this being restricted by a bill, it brings up quite a few questions. Now, I think this should be applied to any miner, home miners, etc. It should go the opposite direction of what it is going in now. SB 1751 will ban this kind of relationship, as well as require these companies to coordinate directly with ERCOT in a power emergency. So what they're trying to do now is, instead of incentivize the mining company and the miners to shut down, what we're going to do is just write it into law that we force them to shut down, and then we don't have to pay them anymore. The thing is if you were purchasing off of the spot market to make up that power that you lose, you're going to spend a lot more on the spot market. So to give you an idea, power is a market, right? So a lot of the power companies that are around, you have the power generators, and then you have like the delivery, right? And what happens is, or the transmission. So then you have power companies that are your transmission. Typically, you're dealing with like a power company that is transmitting the power, okay? And what they do is they go onto the market and they purchase for the next day or for so far out. What this allows you to do is you'll have basically like a group of people that'll go in at a power company. They'll look at the weather. They'll determine like, well, on this date last year, the weather was this. It looks like it's going to be similar, and therefore we're going to need this amount of power, okay? Well, what happened in the winter storm is when everything shut down, because there was obviously everything was freezing up and the power generation wasn't keeping up with the power needs, the cost of the power shot through the roof. And this is on the spot market. And really, what happens though is, like, let's say you're so let's say you're a power transmitter or whatever, and Riot is like, you're supplying power to Riot. Now, Riot might be working with power generators as well. There's a lot of different ways this could play out, right? But let's say that they're going through like a power company that's only transmitting the power, and that power company has to purchase power from a generator, right, on the market, right? Well, let's say they go into a huge demand, right? And the demand exceeds what they currently have. And for that day, they have to go onto the spot market. What that means is that they're going to way overpay for power, right? Because they don't have enough power, so they have to go in. Instead of that, what they can do is they can have the miner shut off and pay them a fee, which would actually be cheaper than going onto the spot market and purchasing on the day of the crisis taking place. This is why it's fundamentally important, and it balances out the actual cost of the power for the residents in that area too. Because what they're trying to frame this as it being negative for the residents. When in fact, what it does is it keeps the power cost more stable for the residents because they have this access and they don't have to go onto the spot market in the case of under generation and purchase, right? And the best part is when they shut them down, they can then, if it's a power co-op or whatever it may be, they can take the power, the extra power, the over generation from the Bitcoin mining farm shutting down and sell that onto the spot market for a premium. Meaning that the power company is probably, every time Riot comes down, the power company is making a significant amount more money selling that extra power back to the market, giving a piece of it to them, and then in the case of a co-op, giving a piece of it back to the members or whatever. This is the way that it all functions. This is all the stuff that I've been learning about. And it means that, like, your perception of like what actually is going on here and what the committee is trying to tell you is happening is not actually how it functions in reality. I hope that made enough sense. And at some point, maybe I'll do a whole video on it. If you guys want me to, let me know in the comment section below. But this is how it's functioning to balance out the price for the residents. Okay. On March 28th, this Texas State Committee on Business and Commerce heard testimony on the bill. Its statute's currently pending. The Texas Bitcoin Foundation did not respond by press time to request for comment. So there you go. All right. In other news, though, the first question, of course, was about they started out here saying, will other states follow? And as Montana says here, no, they won't. Montana crypto mining bill passes House, headed to governor's desk. The Montana House of Representatives passed a crypto miner friendly bill Wednesday. It is now headed to Governor Greg Gianforte. Let's go. How do we pronounce that? Oh, we'll get the headphones for this. Dun, 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 dun. Pronunciation. Boom. I can't even hear it. Did you guys get to hear it? Is it plugged in? Are you plugged in? Now I'm curious why my sound's not working. Oh.
Gianforte.
Gianforte. We got it. Gianforte. So Greg Gianforte's desk for final ratification. The bill, which is intended to protect all types of digital asset miners, including those who mine with their homes, passed 64-35 in its third House reading. The amended version of the legislation, sponsored by Republican State Senator Daniel Zolnikov, there we go, passed the Senate in February. Zolnikov was optimistic about the bill getting signed. Quote, Bitcoin miners have been facing discrimination at the local level, both in Montana and in other states like North Carolina, end quote, Zolnikov told Blockworks. With this legislation set to become law, Montana can guarantee miners can do business in the state and create many of the rural jobs and opportunities that we need. The bill establishes a, quote, right to mine digital assets, end quote, meaning industrial miners and at-home miners are entitled to conduct their business free from government interference. Once signed into law, miners will be able to proceed with operations as they please, as long as they adhere to already existing noise ordinances in residential areas, the bill states. The bill also prohibits electricity providers from charging any discriminatory rates. Huzzah! to industrial or at-home miners. Additionally, if the bill passes into law, state and local authorities will not be able to levy additional taxes on people using crypto as a form of payment. Bill proponents took to Twitter to thank the Satoshi Act Fund, a nonprofit that educates lawmakers on Bitcoin, for its work in getting the bill in Montana to the governor. So there you go. Will other states follow suit to what this bill is trying to go through in Texas? No. It is important to note that I do not think this bill is going to pass in Texas because it does have to go through the House, and I think it'll be much more contested there, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. But Montana is looking friendly to cryptocurrency miners, both home miners and, of course, your commercial miners as well. So we, on Wednesday, had the, what was it? Shanghai upgrade. And the Shanghai upgrade took place, and there was basically the idea that due to the unstaking ability of the ETH that has been earned from staking, it would add sell pressure and bring the price of Ethereum down. Now, immediate response to that was the price went up after the successful completion of the Shanghai upgrade. But that's not quite the whole story, because Ethereum unstaking requests pile up after a Shanghai upgrade, now at a 2-week wait. What does this mean? It means that really, if you're looking at Ethereum right now and you were to say, well, the Shanghai upgrade caused the price of Ethereum to go up, you're half right, half wrong. Why is this? Well, when the unlock happened, a whole bunch of extra transactions went onto the network, which meant a lot of people were spending fees to get their actual Ethereum out of staking, which meant they were purchasing Ethereum on the exchanges to pay for the fees to unstake their Ethereum, which means you kind of have this weird thing where to unstake, you drive the price up. But then that crypto that was unstaked with the fees that you paid is going to be sold back to the market, but it's at such a high request that there's now a 2-week wait. So we probably won't see the actual impact, the full impact, and be able to say what actually happens with Ethereum until these weeks are up. Not to mention, as we discussed before, right now, this is only the Ethereum that was earned by the staked nodes. This isn't the actual staked nodes being allowed to be unlocked at this point. That's going to be up to 6 months to the next year. And if there's a huge wait line, we could see that extended out even further, okay? Validators looking to fully exit the chain could be looking at a wait of up to 14 days to get their crypto back, according to Rated Networks Explorer. So many Ethereum validators have put in requests to unstake Ether from the blockchain following Wednesday's Shanghai upgrade that the queue to get the cryptocurrency out has backed up to 2 weeks. In the hours following the Shanghai upgrade, also referred to as Shapella, the hard fork or series of blockchain code changes that enabled staked ETH withdrawals for the first time, the number of validators waiting for redemptions has grown to about 17,000 for full withdrawals and 285,000 for partial withdrawals. Now, I don't know if that means full withdrawals of the actual staking, which would be the full 32 ETH plus whatever they've earned, or if that means all of the rewards for staking versus just partial rewards of staking. We might have to look at this a little bit deeper into the week. There's not a total agreement in the market about this number. The blockchain analysis firm Nansen estimates it about 22,000 for full withdrawals, while the Ethereum Foundation sponsored data dashboard on the website Metrica also puts the number around 17,000. So it could be upwards of 22,000. The total number of validators is about 567,000 according to Nansen. So the ones waiting for full withdrawals represent just 4%. A full withdrawal is when so they answer our question. A full withdrawal is when the validators request back their entire original deposit of 32 ETH, which is 4% at 17,000. This, the 285,000, is going to be probably your rewards that have been earned by it. But also, the Ethereum blockchain appears to be processing the withdrawals at just 55.4% of its capacity, according to Rated. The upshot is that there's about a 14-day wait. That's quite a bit longer than several blockchain analysts' estimates prior to Shanghai, that it could take a few hours to a few days to get through the backlog. Roughly 1,000 validators have fully exited the beacon chain. Blockchain analysts have noted that validators associated with Kraken, the crypto exchange, make up about 80% of that queue. The dynamic was expected because Kraken agreed in February to shut down its staking services in the US as part of a settlement with the Securities and Exchange Commission, right? So really, this is going to be important too, because right now the SEC has targeted Coinbase and Crypto.com. And so there could be an influence for both of them. And if Coinbase decides to make the same deal that was set in precedent by Kraken, then you could see a much larger portion get unstaked here, right? While stakers are starting to withdraw their accrued rewards, Nansen, a blockchain analytics provider, shows that ETH deposited into the beacon chain has started to grow, showing that stakers want to continue participating in Ethereum's maintenance of the blockchain. Let me get some water because I am getting raspy, my friends. But on a net basis, withdrawals still outweigh the deposits. The 24-hour net deposit change into the beacon chain currently stands at minus 79,488 ETH at the point or time of publication. Data about the Shanghai upgrade will still be rolling in as more liquid staking providers also allow its users to withdraw their staked ETH. Later Thursday, Coinbase, a cryptocurrency exchange that holds about 12.6% of all staked ETH, will allow its users to decide if they want to unstake. Ethereum developers met Thursday to debrief on Shanghai. Quote, "Great work, everyone on Chapella. It worked," end quote. Tim Biko, the protocol support lead at Ethereum Foundation, said at the Ethereum All-Core Devs Execution Layer meeting 159. The network transitioned successfully. There were a couple minor issues that we saw, but I think overall it was very smooth and great work, everyone. ETH is up about 5% over the past 24 hours and rose to $2,003 earlier today. Of course, I think it's higher than that right now. Let's go ahead and take a look. And like I said, it doesn't look like we really have seen, we don't know. We can't make a statement for sure that Shanghai was a positive for Ethereum because we haven't seen the results of how many people are really going to unstake, if they're going to sell onto the market, or if they're going to do something else with their Ethereum, and how this all plays out. It looks like with a 14-day wait time, 17,000 in the queue and only 1,000 completed, that there is going to be a little bit of congestion and a little bit of slowdown before we see exactly what is going on here. Right now, though, Ethereum is sitting at $2,085. So, for the past 7 days, though, up 12%. So outperforming even Bitcoin as of right now. There is an assumption that there might be a consolidation from Ethereum and those who were staking and redeeming their staked rewards into Bitcoin, just due to the fact that there is this kind of SEC push back against staking rewards for centralized exchanges, but that's yet to be seen. So we'll have to see, once again, how that plays out. Let's get into some smaller coin news and some updates on miners and stuff like that. Thanks everybody for hanging out tonight. I know it's late for a lot of y'all. We have some bad A content creators in the chat. Make sure you guys go check out the Hobbyist Miner. I also guested on his podcast. Ooh. So thanks to Hobbyist Miner for letting me guest on his show and for stopping by tonight. Good to see you here, bud. We also got Mind Something. Get it? Mind Something. Make sure you guys go subscribe to his channel, as well as I think I saw New England Crypto in there, who does I believe YouTube content as well as super cool cables if you want to get some custom cables made for your mining rig. So there's all of that. And that includes ASIC miners as well. He does both. So shout outs across the board. Also, that is not a sponsored plug. Nobody has paid me anything to say that. But if you want to, hit me up, boys. All right, so Alephium's native token ALF on Bitmart. So following the successful deployment of Lemon Network Upgrade, Alephium is thrilled to announce that its native token ALF will be listed on Bitmart on April 17th, currently at number 22 in the CoinMarketCap ranking with over $700 million in USD of trading volume. Bitmart is a leading digital asset trading platform that provides a secure, reliable, and user-friendly trading experience to a global audience, including US citizens and residents. Bitmart platform offers a wide range and blah, blah, blah. That's just going to be the spiel. The big news here, of course, is that you probably want to pay attention to Alephium, but as they say, buy the rumor, sell the, what is it? Buy the rumor, sell the news. Maybe the news is too late now and it's already accumulated to where it's going to be, but exchange listings typically do have a little bit of a bump. So there is that. Not financial advice, but pay attention to Alephium running up to April 17th, which is here in 3 days. Then we have the big question. I think everybody on in this community has been asking it. I know I've been asking it. I do not have a solid answer for you guys. But is the Ice River kaspa ASIC miner real? Well, when we first heard about this, we went ahead and ran an MX Toolbox and Whois lookup of the site, and we found that it was really just founded in like March of 2023, very recently, which is obviously suspicious right off the bat. The Twitter account is very new, which is also suspicious, and industry professionals have not really heard of this ASIC manufacturer in the past. So it's odd. But then today or yesterday, the plot thickens and they release some YouTube videos of this supposed miner running. Now, is this an elaborate scam? Maybe. It's hard to tell, right? Because if you look at it from a scam alert perspective, you look at the website, you look at the age of the domain, you look at this and you say, I have no idea how this would actually become a thing in the first place, how this would get manufactured, and you would say, well, this is a scam. However, if you look at it from this perspective, you hear about and then you look at some of the mining pools, you say, well, I'm starting to see a massive increase in the hash rate on kaspa. Are these miners being tested? And it brings up a lot of valid questions. But here are the videos. If you guys want to go watch them, it's really hard to tell here. I mean, he's obviously clicking on a power, so it's not like a render, right? I guess AI can do some pretty crazy things. It looks like there's a dashboard here, right? And then a mining pool in the background here. And then you have basically a kilowatt running here. And you have the time and a date and clock. It looks like, get verified on Pornhub.com type thing. Very weird, just in general, to say the least. And then you get a picture a little bit here of the actual pool running. There's a lot of reasons why this could or could not be real, right? And so if we talk about it, like they could take any ASIC miner they want, right? Plug it up and get it running, get something that's around the claimed power consumption, right? Plug it up, and then they could rent the hash rate and put it on the pool. It's hard for me to tell too at the same time what pool this is. I guess it says kaspapool.org. So we could in theory go here, head on over to kaspa. Look at, kaspapool.org would be at the top if that was the case, I would believe. I think some people saw them on ACC pool. Here's kaspa pool. There is these, here's the thing. There have not been terahash miners really on kaspa ever, and that's where I kind of get confused. This could be rented from NiceHash. It would be an extremely expensive thing to rent, especially for the amount of time here. Right? Each one of these is getting around 1 terahash a second. it's been consistent for the past 24 hours, meaning that if it's a rental, you have to pay 20 for 24 hours. That's a lot. Or these are, I mean, maybe there's some farms that are this large with, I don't know. Maybe there's farms this large with, but I'm trying to think. I can't think of any FPGA that would hook up that you would run, like, typically what, 12 of them off of a Raspberry Pi? Is that the throughput on a single Raspberry Pi, which is typical for FPGAs? I can't think of 12 FPGAs that run up this high. Because that is what, 1300 gigahash? The VU30P is like what, like is it 6 or 4 gigahash a piece, which is in the Osprey E300. You know, I'm not willing to take a $30,000 bet on these. You know, if you do take the $30,000 bet and you're correct and there aren't that many out there, you could be rolling in it, right? But also, why sell them at this point when kaspa's extremely profitable on these things, right? And we haven't seen this hash rate hit the network before, right? On a single miner. Typically, if you have an ASIC or FPGAs that are running, right, and they're at an advantage, you'll start to see them tick onto the network way before you see them hit public sale. So that is another red flag here where I'm like, I'm not sure. But it's definitely something we want to keep an eye on. Either way, it is getting to the point to where mining kaspa with GPUs is becoming, you know, not optimal. So we knew this day was coming. I was kind of expecting it, maybe not this soon. I was expecting it more towards the bull run, more towards 2025. But hey, it's here. In theory, that should be good for the network from a security perspective. So I don't see anything wrong with that, because that was from the very get-go. We've been saying it's going to eventually go to ASICs, and they're here. So there you go. Let's talk about miner releases for the week. We have a new Rigel miner, 1.3.12. They added stats interval parameter to configure GPU stats report frequency. Added support for mining octa.spacecoin, which I had not heard of, but I guess it's a new one to look into, as if I wasn't already exhausted enough with the amount of new stuff to look into. And then the coin uses ET hash algorithm, apparently. However, you need to set the octa to prevent the miner rebuilding the DAG for dev fee dual and triple modes with kaspa and ZIL are supposed to. That doesn't. So it seems like it's an ET hash coin that doesn't rebuild the DAG for the dev fee. I'm a little confused. But that's the release for 1.3.12. I'll definitely have to look into that to understand how that's functioning and why it needs to be a separate algorithm from just an ET hash coin. Then we got Team Black Miner version 1.94. They fixed pool authorization problem if username and wallet pools combined in dual and triple mining, and they removed crash on startup for some pools. Then finally we have Gminer release 3.32. Haven't seen anything from Gminer in a hot minute, so this is good to see. They say that they have fixed kaspa hash rate dip while ZIL mining round. They improved kaspa hash rate for single mining mode up to 1% dependent on GPU, lowered power usage. This is interesting. How much has it lowered the power usage? Is it competitive? They support F2 pool for conflux mining, improved auto detection of dual intensity for dual mining, fixed display of memory temperature on latest NVIDIA drivers under Linux, and hide pool efficiency by default to enable log pass, -- log pool efficiency 1. So there you go. If we take a look at mining profitability for the week, Radiant is on top of the charts for almost everything except for older RX cards like the 5700. So Radiant has obviously had a massive week, and it has been pumping extremely well, and it is extremely profitable. Aletheum, probably on the back of its exchange listing, has also had a decent pump and is coming in second, I think, across the board as well. Let's check an older GPU like the 3090. Dynex is still better on the 3090 than Aletheum. But let's go ahead and check maybe 308012 should be better on Dynex. Nope, Aletheum. So there you go. 3070 Ti. We got Nexa. The Ti's have done pretty good on that, so that makes sense. And let's look at maybe a 2080 Super. Let's look at a 2080 Ti. A lot of people got that. Dynex in second, still on the 2080 Ti. It's trading between Radiant, Dynex, and Aletheum for the most part, with Nexa popping up here and there for some of the TI 30 series, and Clore popping up here and there for the RX 5700 series. So there you go. That's GPU mining profitability. All of this is at 13 cents a kilowatt hour, and being profitable at 13 cents a kilowatt hour is awesome because, whew, it's been a rough, man, it was a rough bear market, you know, but everything's looking on the up and up and starting to shape up. So congratulations to everybody that stuck with it. I'm glad you're still here with me. Let's move on into the next bull run. Black Miner F1 Plus is listed at the front, becoming profitable again, and the F1. It is on something called Frog, so I'm not too sure about that. And I believe, which they don't have listed here, the Black Miner has added support for kaspa. So that's something to keep in mind. Other than that, we have the Antminer L7 still sitting at the top, unless you are looking at S19 XP Hybrid, which have barely started shipping. I do have some pictures over on my Instagram and my Twitter, as I have gotten to see some of these in real life, which is pretty cool, but not this model. The 185, I think it's the 185 terahash model, the older S19 XP or the older S19 Hydro. Anyways, we'll be getting into that build later on once all of the, I think it's waiting on a transformer right now, but hopefully we'll be able to get that for you guys. Other than that, iPolo V1 apparently doing really well on mining rig rentals. ZPET hash, I'm not familiar with that. ETP, it's profitable on. You got ETH proof of work, it's profitable on. Ethereum Fair, ETH-O. I think profitable pretty much across the board, so that bodes well for all of your ET hash ASICs. And then we got the iPolo G1 still being slightly profitable on Grin. Antminer E9 Pros were shipping, but I don't see them listed here. The S19, well, let's see. So the Antminer S19 is one we've been keeping track of for a very long time. And it is profitable right now on PureCoin, interestingly enough. And Bitcoin Cash by a little bit. Is it profitable on Bitcoin right now? Not profitable on Bitcoin, the S19, unfortunately. Oh, we have a few, I think D9s are coming in. Probably going to make these D7s pretty irrelevant soon. So pay attention to that. Don't get caught buying a D7 right now. I'll get you guys the affiliate link over on BT Miners for the D9 if you're interested. I think they're still up. I do have one coming in this month, so we'll be doing a review of it if you want to wait for the review. But it is available, and you can get the discount with promo code SOAT. So check the affiliate link down in the description. Looks like they're going for $73.99 for the April batch right now. So there is that one to check out. We got Hawk Crypto Mining in the chat, famous owner of Terra Hosting. Make sure you guys go follow him on YouTube and check out his hosting business, Terra Hosting. Good to see you in chat. He's got a $4.99 super chat. Thank you for that, my good friend. Let's look at our proof of work watch list. Mine is not fully comprehensive quite yet. Let's look at the biggest gainers for 24 hours. Meow Coin has been pumping with its part meme coin, part charity coin awesomeness going on here. Just pumping on up. RX 5700s are extremely good at Meow Coin. However, a lot of people have moved hash over, so we'll be talking about this in the after show over on Locals tonight, if you want to tune in over there. Radiant is in second place, going up 33% over the past 24 hours. Neoxa in third, going up 29% over the past 24 hours. Flux having a pump today, going up 18.29% over the past 24 hours. Lithium up 11.62%. And we saw Ergo break $2 this week. Holy moly, who would have thought it? It was sitting extremely stale for a while. It's nice to see an old proof of work coin start to pump, because that means that we really are starting to look at probably alts correlating in general. I think this is a good thing for the entire market. I'm glad to see it. Kaspa up 6.53% over the past 7 days. Of course, it was kind of the one that started this alt run recently, and then everything else has kind of followed along. Beam at 2.91%, first time it's been up in quite some time. Dynex up 2.84%. It had a run earlier this week, and so on. Top gainers for the past 7 days, Meow Coin at 504%. Absolutely insane. Simply insane. Radiant up 140% over the past week. Neoxa up 71.13% over the past week. We have Lithium up 42%. Ergo up 40% over the past week. Dynex up 32%. Flux up 24%. Kaspa up 17%. Ethereum Classic is even up over the past week by 8.67%. And look at this. Raven Coin has gone up even 6.5% on the good old Raven Coin. And this one's getting a couple cycles old at this point. Good to see Raven Coin pumping too. I've been extremely happy to just go onto my Twitter, hit the home tab, and watch everybody be excited about their specific altcoin going up. So congratulations to everybody. And I'm happy that everybody is getting gains regardless of whatever tribe they choose to be a part of. Mark at Coastal Crypto with the $9.99 super chat said wrecked. Psh, wrecked. Thanks for the $9.99 super chat. Let's get into questions and answers for the evening, get it wrapped up, and then we are going to be moving over to Locals, where I will be doing a Locals subscriber only show covering my moves for the week, because there are some big ones. Oh, we had a huge super chat from the hobbyist miner, $100, said, water bill's on me, brother. Keep your head high. Thank you, good sir. The water bill's paid, okay? The water's just not working. But it did start working right before I left today. Thank you, hobbyist. Huge, my friend. And Hawk, we already caught you, dude, for that $4.99. All right. Remember, super chats are never required, always appreciated. First to be answered, be sure to tag at Son of a Tech if you want to get your question answered. And let's chit chat about it. Mind Something says, are you testing the 4070 yet? No, it'll be coming to my office tomorrow. I'll be leaving. I have an MRI. Well, I have multiple. I have 4 MRIs tomorrow. So I'll be done. They say it's going to take about 3 hours. So I should be done with that around 2. They want to sedate me. I'm saying I don't want to get sedated because I have a lot of work to get done. And if I'm not, we'll be live streaming the RTX 4070 testing on Locals and then getting a video prepped for you. Tomorrow we have some content on the A770 coming out. Hawk says, yes, you did. Thank you. Yes, son of, yeah. Philip says, that's something I just bought an A750 and can't get it working on an H81 BTC Pro. Yeah, there is no resizable bar on the H81 BTC Pro. And if you watch my video on building an Intel rig, I talk about this specifically and what the requirements are. Now, for Intel, you're going to need to go 500 and up on the motherboard chipset. And on AMD, I believe it's 400 and up, but I would still go with 500 and up because the price is really no difference. So let's just say 500 and up on either one, you'll get resizable bar. Okay. If you don't have resizable bar, the A750 will not work and it will not mine. And that doesn't matter if you're on, I mean, some people have some workarounds. I'm not going to suggest workarounds because I don't want to run support for that. But there are some workarounds if you want to try to Google your way through that. But right now, no, that's not supported out of the box. Babblefish says, at Summit, hey, just bought my first ASIC, picked up an S19 Pro 110 terahash. Nice, my man. Building up. And everybody's starting to buy again. Perfect timing right now, too, because apparently GPUs are at their lowest purchase right now. Lowest purchasing right now for this quarter. It's been the worst quarter for GPUs and CPUs industry since, I think, since 2020 or even before that. So there you go. Matt K says, ask something, have you ever had an MRI? Yes, I have had an MRI multiple times, and I know I'll be stuck in the tube for 3 hours. So if I do end up taking the sedation and I can't hold it, then I will not be testing the RTX 4070 tomorrow, and I will be testing it Sunday. It's okay. We do have a video coming out tomorrow, and I do have one ready for Sunday as well. Peter says, ask Tech, just joined the stream. Any thoughts on the Ice River A6 for kaspa? We already looked at that earlier in the stream, so I'll probably have you rewind for that later on so we don't cover the topic multiple times. The short and sweet is like, I'm not going to risk $30,000. If you know, that's the short and sweet of it. I'm not going to. Philip said, at Tech, thanks for the help, man. Yes, sir. Hawk says, at Tech, I did a recent video interview follow-up with Meowcoin. Check it out. He answers some good questions about the project. I do have him scheduled as well, Hawk, but I'll check yours out for homework. Philip says, at Tech, what miner box did you use again? What do you mean miner box? You mean like case? On the Intel rig was the Rosewell mining server cases, but they don't sell them anymore. Bellu says, that's not a question, but I did talk to Shai. He answered my question about the kaspa Rust. I don't know that the IO stayed the same for both these upgrades. All FPGA ASIC will still work when live. Yeah, I believe that's supposed to be the case, right? But that is the point. We do have that coming out tomorrow. I wanted to do it live. But like I said, I have the MRI, so I won't be able to do it live. We'll just cover it later on. Babblefish says, that's something like new GPU prices are terrible right now. Yeah. Yes. I mean, they only look terrible because we're still mid bear market, right? So it's kind of hard to say, right? You don't know until you know, right? It's like a $400 3070 didn't look good didn't look good like a couple months ago, but it looked great like a year and a half ago, right? Like these are just things that are par for the course, but GPU prices are going to continue to go up just because of the state of the world, right? And the state of the economics and the state of, semiconductor manufacturing in general. Philip said, after all the support and overclocking is released for ARC GPUs, do you think the A380 or the A750 are better buys? I'm doing 110 megahash a second on Ergo and 1 gigahash on ALF right now on the 750. Yeah, they're doing really impressive. Obviously, I have reviews coming out for those. You say the A380 and the A750. It's important to note that there is a 16 gigabyte model of the A770 as well, which I have a review coming out too. And that has some really interesting revelations that I found that you might want to actually take a look at that one as well. Sustainable Crypto says, that's something. Would you be able to disclose anything about your deal in the industry? Well, I work for a power company. Yes. Colton says, that's Simon Tech. I just bought 4 3070s for $1,500. I remember paying that much for just a 3080 back when I started out. Exactly, right? Par for the course. It's just the time and place, right? Prices don't look good for ROI, but that price that you paid now for ROI is going to look amazing in 2025 or whatever, right? And then there's going to be a whole bunch of people coming in being like, how did you do it? And you're going to be like, because I kept going and I was persistent and consistent when nobody else was. If you want the answer to anything in life, that's kind of the answer. You kept doing it when nobody else was, right? And then you just have an advantage when it pops off. Vader says, that's Simon Tech. Can you explain what the core offset is? I understand how to test normal overclocks, but the offsets are kind of throwing me off. Offsets just say, go ahead and take the base clock and then go this much over. So if you set the base, you don't have to set the base clock, but let's say you set the base clock, the core clock or the absolute clock at 1700, and then you have a 300 offset. It means you can go between 1700 and 2000. Kind of you can go between 1700 and 2000, but it doesn't have to go to 2000. It doesn't lock it at 2000. It says don't go below 1700 and don't go over 2000. Motor City Miner says, that's something. Thanks for all the insight over the past 2 years. Grew the farm with your how-tos on repeat and just started on the content creator journey too. Any tips? Content creator journey is interesting. I wouldn't say that I have the best knowledge there. I think there's some better people that you could look at, people that have grown channels much faster than me. I have always been the extremely slow to grow cryptocurrency or just YouTuber in general. I've been doing YouTube for 12 years. A lot of the reason I have success has not been because I figured it out or figured out a secret or whatever. It's just because I just keep doing it. Right? It's like people be like, oh, wow, you have so many subscribers. How did you do that? I don't know. I just kept doing it. Right? And I always went from the perspective, I'm just going to document what I do. Admit my failures, fix those, and then try to fix the videos if they need fixing, and then just keep creating, right? Because the thing is, like, it's all about starting and continuing. Once again, it goes back to the same thing with anything in life, right? The only reason I'm successful at YouTube is because I just kept doing it. Right? I just kept doing it when nobody else was. When I have seen so many YouTubers start and fail that I have, talked about, that I have worked with, that I've collabed with, and they go away. It's the same thing with the gym. I'll put it this way. Like, I have had so many people. The reason I'm successful in the gym is because I go no matter what, if somebody's coming with me or not. The reason I'm successful in YouTube is like, I do YouTube whether somebody is coming with me or not. Sometimes people tag along for a period of time. I have a gym partner for 6 months, maybe a year, then they fall off. When they tell me I don't want to go, I still go that day, right? I don't skip because, oh, somebody else isn't doing it. That's literally the key to everything in life. And it's even more important when it's difficult, right? Like, I had a really bad year. I just have. A lot of y'all know it. A lot of people, have seen it. I've talked about it. I had a really bad year, but I didn't quit. And when it pays off in the future and people ask me why, maybe some of y'all can come back and say, hey, he just didn't quit. That's it. Vader says, at some attack, why does it lower the power so much to do the offsets? Because you're setting the absolute clock lower. So once again, If it's 1700 and 2000, it's saying work between 1700 and 2000. If the algorithm isn't requiring that I use 2000 to solve this current thing, clock back down to 1700. Whereas if you want peak performance at all times and you absolute overclock, then even when it's not needing to use that extra 300 megahertz, it still is. So the power goes up, right? And if you're talking about utilizing a combination of absolute clock and offset at the same time versus not using anything, you basically have GPU boost. And what GPU boost says is go as fast as possible all the time. The Kielbasa says, at Symantec, where does this USDT go when you claim it staking FYT? No idea. Into the ether. Into the ether. Oh. Oh. I don't know. Let's go look for you. Let's look in the after show. It should go into your Flora wallet. Have you added the USDT contract to your Flora wallet? That's probably the answer. You probably need to add the USDT token contract into your Flora wallet, and then you'll see it pop up. Sustainable Crypto says, that's time of that. Thanks for your perseverance. Thanks for watching. Watching this last year made you real. Cool, man. I am a real person. Or am I a robot sent by the FBI to spy on all you degens? All right. Jokes aside, I'm going to move on over to, I'm going to get you guys the link. We're going to move on over to locals. I'm going to show you guys what I'm mining. I've made some changes this week. And also, don't forget to check out my mining tutorial, or my crypto mining e-course over at sonofatech.com. There you go. And that course, I think everybody that has, I've only had one refund. That's my claim to fame. And it seems like everybody's been enjoying it so far. If you are curious on basically how really to time the markets based off of hardware pricing and crypto pricing, we talk about pretty much the 4-year cycle and what to look for, as well as all the other, a bunch of other details, but mainly buying and selling equipment in crypto. Other than that, I'm going to get this live stream going now. Philip says, any thoughts on Core? Check out the after show. Babblefish says, for the core clock, if you lock the core at 1500, the core stays at 1500. If you add a core offset to a locked core, then it actually undervolts the GPU. If you add the, I didn't know it undervolts it as well, Babblefish. Thanks for that knowledge, my good friend. Babblefish always coming in with the support. Back me up. Help me not sound as stupid. Let's see. So that's going to be, we start virtual cam. We do that. Check the mic. We want to go wavelength stream. We want to start stream. Yes, start. And then we want to share this with you all. And just to be clear, the first 15 minutes will be everybody if you have any more questions, and then we'll be making it for supporters only. because that's something I do. I only cover my week-to-week moves with supporters, and that's just a way that we don't overflood any networks and so on. Thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bells down below. And I will see you next Tuesday. Give me about 10 minutes to get recombobulated.